6 minutes to 4 on 702 Drive. Let's turn to a matter that was in the courts today, a matter, I think, of huge concern for anyone who has followed this particular matter. Darren Wilkin today appeared in court charged in a number of instances with the possession and intention to distribute 10 million, I think they said, 10 million images and videos of child pornography. So what's going on there, and how might an operation like this work? We fully realize that this still has to appear before the courts, but to get some perspective on how these kinds of networks work, we're joined now by Lamprecht, who is Head of Advocacy for Women and Men Against Child Abuse. Mr. Lamprecht, welcome, and thanks very much for your time. I mean, how does a network like this actually work? Presumably, this is part of a concealed part of the internet that, perhaps people refer to as the dark web. But your insights, please. Good afternoon.
Hello, John. Look, the first thing that we want to try and do is change the narrative a little bit because,
Yes.
the concept of child pornography just doesn't sit well with us. These are images of the sexual assault of children that are actually crime scenes
Right.
that people are selling and profiting from. So I think the languaging of things is quite important, because those 10 million images and or videos, each one of those involves a child that has been sexually abused and exploited by some adult that we assume has some level of access to them on an ongoing basis. So we have 10 million victims out there, and the courts obviously are looking at it in that light. So there's a seriousness attached to it where we've got to be very vigilant about how we use language. So the general way that these syndicates work is that in the days when smartphones and tablets and Wi-Fi and that weren't as available and accessible, it wasn't so easy to create recordings. You'll remember being recorded years ago where people had to bring like a big Betamax and lights.
Yes,
and,
yes.
Now you've got a little phone in your hand and you can record something at high quality anywhere. Plus, with the advent of access to Wi-Fi, anybody can upload anything that they want to, and it's actually drifting, in my experience, into just mainstream internet. So the idea that these syndicates operate in some kind of clandestine way on the dark web used to very much be the case.
Right.
There used to be codes. I remember one of the guys that we testified against, he would sell images online as boys' choir music under 10, but in fact they were the images of the sexual exploitation and abuse of 10-year-old boys. So, there was this group that used to share things among themselves. I'm seeing young people at the moment, looking at pornography or being exposed to pornography. I'm talking about other children who are stumbling across these kinds of images of the sexual assault of children in the mainstream internet. They don't need any fancy codes. They don't need any insider knowledge. That's all out there. So you must remember, cell phones and smartphones have not made pornography, and I'm talking about pornography in general. It's not made it accessible. It's made it inevitable.
Yes.
And it's the kind of the rabbit hole that they go down that becomes the problem.
So I want to ask you, going back right to where we started, Luke Lamprecht, you were saying that we need to. So I introduced this as images of child pornography. Give me an alternative term. Should we say images of child sexual exploitation? Would that be a more precise framing? Give me the words.
So remember that those things that have been looked at are crime scenes. So when I go and give evidence in a sexual assault case,
yes,
that child's body is the crime scene. That video is a recording of a crime scene. And we need to call it what it is. It's images of the sexual abuse and exploitation of children, or videos of the sexual abuse and exploitation of children. Because the word child and pornography shouldn't exist in the same sentence.
Yeah. And just finally, I mean, this matter coming to court, obviously we've got to hear what evidence they have. Do you sense that, because on the one hand, the way you're framing it is that it's becoming easier to make and easier to distribute images of the sexual abuse and violence. But on the other hand, are we getting better at catching people doing this?
Well, if you look at how this case came out, it's like the previous case that I spoke about. It actually came about via information from our foreign colleagues.
Yes.
So people like the FBI. And in the last case, the FBI actually testified in the case. We have got someone locally who is connected via our child protection units to Homeland Security. So there's definitely better cooperation across borders because, we talk about the trafficking of children across borders in the literal sense, the movement of children.
Right.
But children's images are being sent across borders without any, without any challenges whatsoever. So there is definitely better cooperation once we are alerted by the authorities who have better technology than us, hence the US and the FBI, who are tracing their local guys. They then give us information about our local guys. And then, we are definitely getting better at it. But I mean, if you think of 10 million images, how long would 10 million images even take you to look at?
Thank you so much. Luke Lamprecht joining us, Head of Advocacy for Women and Men Against Child Abuse, bringing us to 4 o'clock on 702.